Good morning and welcome to the Raben Report. I'm your host, Elliot Raben, so get ready to get triggered. Good morning and welcome to the Raben Report's Season 7 finale. I'm your host, Elliot Raben, and with me for the last time this season is my expert panel, Amara, Samuel, and Jessica. How are you guys?
Great.
Good.
Great.
Awesome. For the last time this season, we are here. It's true. To begin, all opinions expressed are not those of Ryerson or Ryerson faculty and are only those of the individual commentators. Viewer discretion is advised. Let's briefly go over, well, it's actually not going to be brief because we have a lot to talk about in our weekly recap. So we're going to start with Russia being banned from the 4 years being banned from international sport, that being the 2022
The 2020
Olympics?
Summer Olympics,
Yeah.
the 2022 Winter Olympics, and then the World Cup in Qatar.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and it's based on the International Doping Federation that banned them following their doping scandals. What are everyone's thoughts on that? Russia's big in the news right now, so for them to be hit with such a blow, what do you think?
I mean, if they were consistently cheating, then they shouldn't, like, it makes sense. I think it's fair if they were doping a lot.
It was a big story back during the last Olympics.
Yeah.
How they were investigating all these different athletes. I guess they found out they were all doping.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just, first off, cheating. Second off, it's because it's not like, the athletes are necessarily wanting to dope. They're being forced into doping, which is just harmful on their bodies. So, yeah, action has to be taken to tackle both the unethical side of cheating as well as the harm that they're doing to a lot of young athletes and what's going to happen in the future. But the thing is, they're still allowing athletes from Russia to compete as Olympic athletes from Russia, and they still play the national anthem when they win, and they still raise the flag, and they still compete in red and white. So
Are they? I think it's only like if they compete as part of like international athletes.
Like neutral.
So, yeah, like neutral. So if they do want to compete, they'd have to compete under that umbrella.
and maybe that's what it is. But
Yeah.
still, I don't know. I think that's a bit.
Because the whole issue was that it was state sponsored. So the Russian government said, you guys are going to dope. And I'm sure a lot of athletes didn't want to do it, and a lot of athletes didn't do it. And they're the ones who were paying the price for actions that they didn't take. So it's just kind of sad to see coming out of Russia, but it's also not really expected.
What do you mean not expected?
Sorry. It's not
Unexpected.
it's not unexpected.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it's not surprising.
It's not
Yeah.
surprising that Russia would do this.
Yeah, not at all.
So there's not really much to really talk about there. It's just it sucks for the athletes, but it's also, it's the Russian government's fault. They literally had interference in
Yeah,
that.
and the fact that they're allowing the athletes to compete neutrally, like they're really punishing Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Not really. Like the athletes are getting punished, but they still can compete if they pass the tests and they
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah. Well, moving forward in our other weekly recap, this past week it was the 30th anniversary of the Montreal massacre, where a gunman walked into the École Polytechnique in Montreal and killed 12 female students who were studying in the STEM field simply because they were women. That relates to our main topic today, but let's just talk about that in itself. Apparently, when I was reading about this, the gunman walked in and he told all the men to leave and that he would then kill the women, and all the men left.
I don't know if he told them that
He
he
split
would.
them.
He just split. I think they thought that like it was a hostage situation and there was someone else outside.
There was
so I don't
men
think
and women in a room,
the
and
men
he
thought
said
that
women
they
to
would
one
do that.
side, men to the other.
So, I mean, 30 years since that happened, what have we learned? What can we do to prevent this kind of
The thing
tragedy?
is, women still feel this fear. Women still feel unsafe going to school. Women still feel unsafe walking alone at night. I know personally I don't want to go into an Uber alone just because I don't know what could possibly happen. Yes, women have come a long way, and we have things like the Me Too movement. And we have a lot of allies, and there's a lot of, good guys out there that are going to be an assistance and be an ally to protect women, but that still doesn't counter the fact that domestic violence is still huge. Women still don't feel comfortable going to school. Women still are, when you look at rape cases, it's always looking at, oh, we don't want to ruin the life of the guy or the potential rapist. I mean, look at the Stanford swimmer and look at that case. He got 6 months.
Is that Brock Turner?
Yeah. 6
The
months
rapist,
for
Brock
raping an unconscious woman. And she was seen and she was talked about as just, degraded to just being an unconscious girl at a party, and not any of her story was told up until recently, and she had to deal with that whole court case, and he got 6 months. So women feeling safe is not something that is normalized. It's not something that I personally feel. An issue like this that happened 30 years ago, just because it's 30 years ago, it's still incredibly prevalent. Fortunately, in Canada, we haven't had something like this tragedy happen recently where women were just targeted and shot because they were getting an education, but that doesn't mean that doesn't happen in other areas of the world, other places in the United States, and other countries where women are not even seen as close to equals to men, which is a problem in and of itself. And it's just absolutely disgusting.
I think with this specific, like with shootings, I always found it interesting that we, in high school, we would have like demonstrations and stuff, and we'd always kind of observe this day. And in the States, it just seems like shootings are so common. Like this is a school shooting that we had here, and it happened, over a decade ago, and we still remember it and stuff. And like there wouldn't be the time in the States to, I guess, act this way about all of the shootings. So I think it's just interesting how different
it just goes down
cultures
to
are.
Gun control. That brings in the gun control.
Yeah,
argument.
and I think just gun culture, which goes into gun control. But I just think that I've always thought that was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, in terms of the equality, Jessica, as you were saying, we're going to talk about that in great length today, the equality between men and women. But let's move on to something a little bit more local, which is the Ryerson Student Union, which has always been a hot topic here at the Raben Report. I think 3 or was it 4? 4 executives from the Ryerson Student Union are set to be impeached. It's like...
So... sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
Doug Ford, the Student Choice Initiative, dealt with us being able to choose if we fund student unions. One of the things, other things as well. And I think, I think anyone who's been at Ryerson these past 2 years would choose not to give money to the RSU. I think student unions in theory are a really good thing to represent students and their interests, but it never happens like that. And it's just pretty tiring knowing that we're all like in debt or paying thousands of dollars, and there are people who are just making money off of us and not doing their job that they're probably overpaid for anyway.
And the whole thing, the reason they're being impeached is because they were not working their required hours. So the fact and the thing is, a motion had to be passed for them to work their required hours. So for a separate motion to be passed for somebody to do their job is an entire joke within itself, really. And again, it's not foreign for Ryerson to have student union representatives screw with us.
Well, this is like nothing compared to last year.
Yeah, but they're still taking our money.
It's still bad.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the fact that this is not even close to the worst is pretty bad.
It's funny, all those senior RSU members or affiliated members during the time of the Student Choice Initiative when it was first coming out, they were espousing how that was just one bad actor, referring to the previous slate, and this time will be different. The RSU is so great; they give so many services. I'm going to use the word they like using. Institutionally, it's bad. It's corrupt. Whether that's the senior administration or just the lack of oversight, the type of people that run, it just needs obvious reform. And I don't think that can come with new members or a different slate or anything. The administration has to step in.
I think it's
students' money that's being abused.
It's a lack of oversight for sure, because there are services that the RSU provides that are good, but it's just clear that there needs to be some sort of supervision because this keeps happening. Well,
they fired their direct supervisor, like their manager. So, and the same thing happened to their financial accountant in the year before when they spent $750,000 of our money. They fired
much money,
honestly. And then he went to a debt consolidation firm, spending money that he used for that firm as well. I wonder where he is. I hope he's in jail. But
he's definitely not in jail.
Yeah. Well, he's obviously got great lawyers.
Where is he? We don't know. Wasn't he afraid to show up to meetings?
Yeah.
He was afraid for
Physically
safety.
intimidated.
Yeah. So it's just I find it a joke. But you're exactly right. There are services that the RSU provides that are great, like the Good Food Center, for example, right? That helps students struggling to get access to food. And I just think those services need to be done under a different body because the RSU is not the voice of the
It
students
needs to
anymore.
be like, I don't know, cleaned up somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you
Torn
move it to a
down,
different
built up.
body, then you're going to have the same issue. What needs is reformation.
Well, I just think it should be.
Oversight.
I think it should be controlled by the
Supervision,
university.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, there's-
not by students, because
We can't be trusted.
There's nothing to say that the administration couldn't run a food bank or a food run, whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously the whole spirit of it that it's student run, but I mean,
yeah,
I don't think it, I think people have. But the thing is, it's just gone on so many years. But the people that were first initially impacted by these consecutive scandals, they're going to graduate. Like I've been here every single year since I can remember it. There's been a scandal every year with the RSU.
Me too.
But it's hard to. I can see how year over year there isn't this big initiative to, reform. It's because by the time the students have gotten older, they want to be more involved. Oh, they're okay. You're gone. So
And no one's going to care enough to stick around Ryerson to
Yeah, exactly.
clean up the RSU.
yeah. It's definitely just a mess. But let's move on to our last item in our weekly update, which I'm the most excited for, and I think is the most positive here. Celine Dion is in Toronto, guys, and I'm wearing my Celine Dion sweater. So she's performing in Toronto tonight, and she performed last night, and it's going to be a great show, and I'm very excited.
I didn't know you were a fan.
Oh, you didn't? No, nothing really
Yeah,
clicked.
who's Celine Dion?
I was
Never
going to
heard of her.
ask, yeah.
Yeah, well, just the queen. But anyway, I think it's a way to brighten up our weekly update with something positive because
Yeah, that's great. Everyone's excited for you.
Thank you. I really
to go
hope
see
so.
Celine Dion.
I know I'm really excited. I don't know if I'm gonna wear this. I don't know. Maybe I'll wear a suit. I don't know because people like
Suit to
well,
a
not a suit,
Where
but
is
like
it?
it's at the Scotiabank.
The ACC?
Yeah.
In a
Don't wear a suit to the ACC.
Well, not a suit, but like a dress shirt and a nice jacket and jeans. Like not a full suit.
Why?
But because I'm paying a lot of money to see her.
Yeah, but I mean, I've never been to a Celine Dion concert. I don't know the vibe.
People wore suits. Like
Okay.
they wore like
Well, that
when
makes
I
sense.
got there in Vegas, people were wearing like suits, and I had my like Celine
Can I ask you a
shirt on.
question?
Yeah.
What is the average age of the other people at Celine Dion concerts? I'm just wondering.
I don't know. I didn't do a sample survey.
Okay,
But-
from what you saw, were they,
They were not my
30s,
age.
40s, 50s, or older than that?
It was honestly like, it was between 30s, 40s, 50s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like, and obviously there were like maybe some 60, 70-year-olds, but
Yeah.
like it wasn't just like 50. You know what I mean?
But it wasn't like 20.
Well, there were two of us. So, I mean, it's more than one. But I think that's where we're going to wrap up our weekly update and move on to our main topic, which is men versus women. What?
It's just funny.
Grr.
Men versus women. Like, who wins? No
Well-
one. If
well-
we're-
What a strange way to title something.
It's called clickbait. We did an episode on that. People are going to click when they see men versus women. You know what I mean?
Oh, I hate women.
We're going to get into that, Sam.
Yeah, we know.
There's
Hey.
no denying the fact that men and women are different from each other. However, with the changing times, the differences are a lot less starkly portrayed. Is that a good or bad thing? Many believe that men and women are becoming more equal, and the eventual goal is for the sexes to be on the same level completely. On today's Season 7 finale of the Raben Report, we dive deep into the battle of the sexes. From biology to careers and personal life choices, nothing will be left off the table. As a reminder, we are live on Facebook, so make sure to comment on our feed to have your thoughts read live on air. We asked our audiences a question in the polls, and we're going to start with that. Sam, hopefully I only have to ask
Yes.
yeah.
I'm way ahead.
What
of
is
you.
the question?
So the question was, are gender roles important?
And how
And-
many people voted?
67 people voted. 54% said yes, they are, and 46% said no, they are not.
Close.
So
Yeah.
it's 36 said yes, 31 said no.
Well, just taking a look at our Instagram, we also did a vote there, right? And the total there, we had 26 votes, and 9 for yes, 15 for no. So it's pretty interesting that on Facebook, more people said that gender roles are important, and on Instagram, more people said that they were
Gender
not.
I think
roles
that
are a
makes
social
sense.
construct, and they're totally irrelevant.
Like,
They're
what's the first question?
Well, it was the question is this going to be the same to you guys? Are gender roles important?
No.
I will go first because I don't think I'll be able to
Get your word in.
Yeah. So, if we're talking about, like, it depends on the context. I think most of the time we're talking about families. So, mothers, woman's role, gender role is usually, nurturing and being the homemaker and stuff like that. And the man's role is providing and I guess like
The
discipline.
breadwinner,
Yeah, the
and
breadwinner. And I feel like in that traditional gender role, like, family, the dad is usually like, wait till your dad gets home. Like, it's usually your dad's the disciplinarian as well. So I think having those two, like, having those, I don't know, traits
those
is
roles.
important in a family, but I don't think that the woman has to be the one that's the homemaker and the man has to be the breadwinner or the disciplinarian. I think it can be like you can mix them. Like you could be a homemaker and the disciplinarian, and also like if the woman makes more money, it's perfectly fine for her to go be the breadwinner and the man stay at home. Like I think it's important for children to be nurtured and have all that they need growing up, but I don't think that those necessarily have to do with like your genitals.
Jessica?
I agree. I mean, I don't think that a mom has to be the one that's going to be all the idea that women are nurturing and sensitive and only care about the babies and want to make a nice home. That is sexist in and of itself, and not all women harbor those characteristics. And women are allowed to be outside of the home and take care of and become the breadwinner as well as when you have a stay-at-home dad or a stay-at-home individually, or you could just be a single mom and you can hold both characteristics. The idea that it has to come down to gender roles and prescribed roles that are based purely on sex, not gender, because gender and sex are two totally different constructs, is ridiculous. And to think that only women... What are you staring at me for, Samuel?
What? You're talking.
Okay, yeah. Well, the idea that only women have to be the ones that are nurturing and that women are the ones that are sensitive and that women are the ones that care about the families and care about the babies and make sure that the husband has a warm meal at the end of the day is complete and utter bullshit.
I agree. Like, I just think you don't have to do that because you're a woman.
Do not mock me, Samuel, because that is totally true. And if you think that you're just going to have a woman that's going to stay at home and care about just the family while you go out and work, that's regressive behavior. And she is allowed to go outside of the home and do whatever she wants. She doesn't have to.
She though? Is she?
She
has the right to.
Is she?
Well,
but in your relationship, is she free to?
Yeah.
Will she?
No.
Because of why you're telling her to?
No, it's just because that's our dynamic. Well, that's the future dynamic. I'm not, I'm still in school.
Okay.
But that's one that makes me happy.
I think
that's
it's
a dynamic
fine.
that makes you happy?
Yeah,
Having a woman stay at home.
absolutely.
Why would you ever stay at home?
Why would I?
Would you want it? What if Moralia was the one that I want to work in this relationship? Would you be with her?
No.
Why is that? Is it a woman's role to stay at home? Honestly,
Yeah.
I want you to say it's a woman's role to stay at home.
Yeah.
So is it my role to stay at home?
If you have a loving husband, yeah.
So
Oh,
why?
no. So when I get married and when I have my husband and when I've gone through 7 years of school and become a successful lawyer, because I popped out kids, I have to stay at home because he's making money.
But I just have to why?
No, I want him
is
to
that
answer this
a
question. I want him
woman's
to answer this question.
role?
I think if you, so in this hypothetical situation, the man would be working as well, or no?
Yeah.
So who'd be taking care of the kids? Some nanny?
Yeah, I could have a nanny.
Some nanny.
Some nanny? You don't
Parents.
know?
It's judgmental.
What's the point of having kids if you're not
I'm
raising
pretty sure
them?
people know their nannies. I don't think they just like pick a random
I don't know.
21-year-old woman off the
Exactly.
street.
And you could
give
have
her-
great
give her the kids to
children
her.
raised by a nanny. You could have great children raised by their grandparents, and just or daycare or situation. So many families do that now because they require not only because either maybe they want to or they require a double income household in the state of our political economy.
Yeah.
Regardless, even if they if they both just want to work, there are so many successful children that come from being raised by and nurtured by nannies, and they still have their parents come home at the end of the day and they still have the weekend dynamic. Just because a child is raised by a nanny compared to just a stay-at-home mom does not make the mother a bad mother and does not make a child less equipped than a child that has been raised by a stay-at-home mother. And if you think that,
Yeah.
then you have some serious issues towards women.
But can I just ask a question? Like, I think it's perfectly fine for people to live in the dynamics that they want. If you want to have your wife, your future wife, stay at home with your future children, that's fine if that's what she wants to do. Like, it's your business, it's your marriage, it's your house. Like, I don't really care. But, do you acknowledge that it's possible for that to not be what people want, for there to be an equally, like, loving, successful marriage with children where the father does stay home and he prefers that and the woman works? Like, is there something wrong with that situation?
The mother's the breadwinner, and
Yes.
I don't know if that's the best.
But how do you know that your dynamic is the best?
Why can't a woman be the one that works and the husband is this one that stays at home? That's purely based on a vagina and a penis. That's your whole argument right there.
No, I think there's much more to.
So
to
tell
differences
us.
Is it
between
because
them.
of the stereotypical roles that women whore, that they're sensitive, caring, and nurturing ladies? Is that
Yeah, I
is that
think most
purely
women
it
are
is?
those things.
Most women.
Yeah.
Do you think that I have those qualities? And that I should be the one that stays at home? Come on, say it, Samuel. Say it to my face.
Based on the last 10 minutes, I don't know. Maybe you're giving me a lot to think about.
So I wouldn't make a good mother then.
No, I didn't say that.
I just don't understand why it's impossible for you to accept that there are people who don't necessarily want to have
I
your
don't like
lifestyle.
getting personal like that.
But
Just so
that's
you
but
know.
that's what you're
Sam,
saying.
You are being personal because you're saying me, after I've educated myself for an incredibly long time, if I choose to have a child, which I do want one day, that means that I have to stay at home because I'm a woman, not because I'm educated, not because of anything else, regardless of the relationship. If I'm with somebody who wants to stay at home, a guy that wants to stay at home. Like, that's a personal attack. That's more personal of attack than saying that I'd be a bad mother, because I don't give a shit if you think I'm going to be a bad mother.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but, you know.
I just don't
You're
understand why. Like, what is
You're
wrong
just-
with a lifestyle that's not necessarily like yours? Like, it's fine that you want
Sure.
that, but why is it, bad for the opposite to happen if they're all happy and that's what they want to do?
I think they're doing it out of necessity.
But that's
They're
not always
misguided.
true. There are men who stay at home and women who work, and they like that dynamic.
I don't know how happy they are.
Really,
It's just interesting that, like, as a
Do you
20-something...
know a lot of couples like that?
Yes, and it's just interesting that as an early 20-something-year-old, you think that you have, like, marriage and life and family all figured out.
No.
Like, you don't think that there are couples who are in their 50s and 60s and have been together for decades that have the dynamic that I'm talking about, that are happy?
The man is the stay-at-home
Yeah.
father, and the...
It's like, how do you know
It's
that? Where is all of this
impossible?
life
No.
experience
No,
coming
no,
from?
no. It's
That
not-
you
maybe
can
it's
tell
not
when other couples are
impossible.
happy.
This,
You're not even married. Like, you've never even been in a marriage.
Okay.
How do you know what's going to make a happy marriage?
how do you know?
I don't. That's why I'm saying that you
Okay,
should be
so we
able
should
to do
just
what
be
you want.
skeptical about everything. And
No,
okay.
you just completely talked over me and ignored what I'm saying. I'm saying you should be able to do what you want.
No,
And that's
I
why
disagree
I'm
with
not
that.
telling. That's why I'm not harping
I
on you
think
and telling you
I know.
that you're a sexist asshole for wanting your wife to stay at home.
Okay.
Because it's fine if you want that.
No,
I just feel like you should give other people that same respect, because I don't presume to know what makes a successful marriage at 21.
Sure, but I think you can understand what the benefits of social norms without having
Of
lived
course,
them
but
themselves.
that doesn't mean that every other situation is not beneficial and is actually detrimental.
No, but we're talking about establishing norms, right? And
Why do you have to establish norms?
Because that's how you have a healthy society.
So a healthy society, it just keeps women as the lesser.
Never said that.
Well, that's what you're implying, Samuel.
No, I think what he's saying is just about norms.
You're prescribing that role as being lesser. I view it as entirely required and noble.
It's such bullshit.
All right.
Samuel-
Noble.
I think being a mother and caring for children and raising them to be good people is very noble.
And so is being a father and caring for children and raising
much
them
more
to
noble
be
than
good people. And
doing
so is
fucking
providing.
PowerPoint presentations.
One at a time.
And so is providing for your family. That's noble as well. Like, again,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know where all of this life experience comes from, where you get to condemn other people for not fulfilling the
I just
roles
don't know how happy they
in
are.
their marriages and families. Like,
Why-
you have no children and you're not married, but
Of
you know
course.
what makes a happy marriage and family. I find that a
Samuel.
little bit just
one
ignorant,
at a
honestly.
time. Let's not kill him at
Samuel,
the same
Yeah.
time.
you don't know how happy those people are. So you're saying that, I'm just going to keep using me as an example.
Sure.
If I was in a, and I, no, I'm not going there. If I was forced to stay at home and I was, because of the social norm, so I have, regardless, I want to work,
You're just
want to work.
discouraged from
but
it by
I-
society.
Yeah, and, but I have children, so now I have to stay at home, and my husband has the one that has to go out and work. You realize how miserable that would make me to know that I am forced to stay at home and not use any of the education or the experience or be able to complete to accomplish anything career-wise that I want to do because I am being forced to stay at home, but society is telling me that that's what will make me happy.
You'd be that miserable around your own children all day
That's
long?
not what I'm
Wait,
saying,
can I ask a
Sam.
question,
No,
though? So
one
would you be
second,
that
Amara.
miserable?
1 second. That is not what I am saying, Samuel. I'm not saying that I'm going to be miserable to be around my children. You do not understand.
You said you'd be miserable to be at home. To waste your education.
It would be a waste of my
Okay.
education. And why can't I'm not, so why am I going to take that out on my children? Why can't I have that career and have that balance and then come home to my children? What is wrong with that situation? Forcing women to stay in roles that are socially constructed just for the pure benefit of what you think makes them happy is completely irrelevant. A woman should be able to decide what she wants to do, and if she's the one that decides that I want to stay at home and I want to raise my family, all the power to her. But if she wants to use her education and utilize a career and make something of herself in that sense, as well as she could still be a kick-ass mother, because I know that that's who I came from as a working mother, then that is totally all the power to her as well. And to just say that she is not going to be totally happy because society's role for her is not really being fulfilled is completely derogatory and degrading.
I think women have been lied to. And,
Oh my God.
Wait, can I ask a
honestly,
question?
and they've
I have
been
a
lied
question.
to. You'll
My
like
hand's
this.
up,
I'm going to view
just so
this.
you
I'm
know.
going to view this from your very favorite Marxist perspective. They've been lied to increase the supply of labor and decrease
Yeah.
the
So that's a very
Sure. The
common
value of it.
argument
Yeah.
that people make for saying women should stay at home. So I have two questions now.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not going to talk over you.
So you asked, you'd be that miserable around your children, which I think was purposely misunderstanding what she was saying. But would a father who stayed home be miserable around his children?
No.
So that's my first question. And also, you're talking about having two incomes necessary for a family is out of capitalism and more labor and all that.
Yeah, in most cases.
Which
in like
okay,
big cities,
it's true, but that still doesn't mean that the woman has to stay at home. That just means that you're saying that a single income household is no longer viable, which I think is a problem. But that doesn't mean that women shouldn't work.
I think being the breadwinner is a very masculine role, and
Oh my God.
and you'd be emasculated as a man to sit at home. Oh, honey.
Okay, so I'm gonna respond to that.
Thank you. How was work,
I
honey?
think that if
wow,
you-
let me go bake the
Okay,
casserole.
we were just gonna wait for him to
Oh,
do this really bad acting.
You're gonna go next.
Okay, so
I
think,
don't even have a camera on myself right now. Just saying.
I
So.
think that's a really weak role. If you're
Women don't know what they
I'm
want.
going to finish
Like,
speaking.
come on.
That's what I'm going to do. So if your masculinity is so fragile that
It's not.
your wife working and you taking care of the home makes you feel emasculated, you have issues that you need to deal with.
I don't think
Being
it's
a
any
good father and a
woman's
good
role
husband-
to tell me what
I
masculinity
thought he was going to
is.
talk over me.
Just
Being
hold
a
on.
good husband and a good father
Mm-hmm.
is masculine, and doing that for what works with your family is masculine. And if you have to enforce some social norm on your wife that she's not happy with to make you feel like a man, you have issues.
Okay.
Going back to that thing, it's not a woman's role to tell you what it is to be masculine. You know how many times you have told me what the role of a woman is, and you know how many times you've told me what it means to be a woman, and you know how many times you told me the characteristics of femininity. So
Yeah.
why is it your role as a man to tell me what it's like to be a woman?
Because men know what they want and women don't.
No, I want an answer from you right now.
Yeah.
Then what is it? So I can't tell you what it's like to be a masculine, and I can't tell you that it's really insecure masculinity to think that to be a stay-at-home dad is just not being a breadwinner and oh honey in the casserole situation, and you think that's
casserole
and you think
situation.
that is a masculine, even though I think that if a man wants to stay home and choose to provide for his family and support his wife while she goes out and works, and that's just looking at a heteronormative relationship right there.
As
That-
opposed to what?
Well, Samuel doesn't.
Two
well,
women
you
raising
can
a child,
actually,
or two
yeah.
men raising a child.
What
But
about that?
regardless,
What about those situations?
well, 1 second.
What about those?
Regardless of that, that shows more masculinity because he's not insecure about his masculinity that he's staying home and he's providing for the children. But going back to the main question that I have for you, how come it is okay for you to tell me what it's like to be a woman, and for you to tell me the whole idea of femininity and the characteristics that I have to portray as a woman, but for me to tell you about masculinity and insecure masculinity, that's out of my realm.
Because you're wrong.
But
Well,
I think
no,
you're wrong.
You're wrong. But
No.
I have another question. You said women
So
don't
I'm
know.
wrong. Why am I wrong?
Because your views on gender are completely based on what the total sexual liberalization from 40
Liberation.
years. Liberation. It's completely historically inert. It means
hilarious.
nothing.
How do you know that though?
Yeah.
Do you ask her? She told you that?
Yeah.
Or you just
What?
assume that that's where her views come from?
But I can assume that it's based on.
And also,
she's in
you said women don't know what they
education system.
want. Do you know what women want?
I can guess.
What do women want, Samuel? Tell us.
Women want to be in a loving marriage with a
Yes.
stable,
Oh.
confident,
No, just let him finish.
supporting,
I wanna hear this.
a stable, confident, supporting husband.
Yes.
Yes.
That does not mean that he has to be the breadwinner, first
Yes,
of all.
they do.
But again,
No, it doesn't.
coming from somebody who's never been married and is in his early 20s, I just find it hilarious that you think you just have a woman figured out. Like,
It's not that hard.
smart people know what they don't know.
So you think you have every single woman in this entire universe because we all fall under the same blanket of these sensitive, pure beings. You have all of us figured out, but I don't have you figured out whatsoever because of my liberal, stupid
No,
views.
because you have a vagina.
Sorry, I didn't realize. It's really holding me back over here.
Listen, fellas, you know what I mean.
Who are you referring
talking
to? I can guarantee the amount. Oh, you're talking to Elliot over here. Who's
No,
your
I'm pointing
fellow
at the camera. I'm
conservative?
pointing at the camera. Alan, leave Elliot out of this. Leave Elliot out of this.
Yeah, please. right
Samuel,
now.
the amount of guys that I know and my father and uncles and people that I come from, they do not agree with your views on this stance at all. You come from an incredibly niche demographic of men that think that women are
Sad demographic.
Yeah,
of
that women are lesser and women should
beta
be
males.
equal. Oh wait, should we
Beta.
throw in? Do you think women
You
should
would know.
deserve the right to vote? Should we throw in that argument here now as well?
Hey,
Yeah.
that's a whole other discussion.
Let's have it.
Let's have it. Do you think
I
women
don't
deserve
want
the right
to. I don't
vote?
want to derail the argument.
You know what's,
discussion
Jessica?
from
You know what's
what
very
Elliot likes?
masculine? Avoiding speaking about your views publicly because you're afraid of backlash. That's really strong and confident and masculine, I think.
Yeah. Those are the characteristics of masculinity that I go for. Yeah.
Well, as long as you
avoiding talking about conflict and your views.
controversial.
I'm being look.
Yeah.
I'm so charming, but I would never insult these women like they insult me. Just
How is that an insult?
Because
It's
Samuel,
true.
you're not just insulting us; you're insulting our entire sex.
Who's insulting anybody? That's the truth. You talk about masculine. We've talked about masculinity before. We're talking about masculinity right now and what's masculine and feminine and what women and men want.
And
So
you
I don't think that
totally-
that's necessarily an insult. It's really what happened. If that's insulting, then maybe don't do that.
You know, you talk about us like we don't have an opinion and we don't have.
No, I realize you have an opinion. I just think you're wrong.
Because I think women have rights.
Okay. I never
And I-
disagreed with that.
Yeah.
It-
you have.
Thank you, Amara. Like, because why? Because I don't.
Hold on.
I don't even know how to have a conversation with you
I
because
think
you just you shut it down and then you say that we're attacking you. Regardless, you're being sexist and you're being misogynistic to an entire to half the population. And all we are saying is that your views that you're harboring are incredibly regressive and incredibly insulting
Fact
and
I'm proud of.
derogatory. That you're proud of these derogatory and
No, that
misogynistic
they're regressive
views.
because anything that's not traditional is bad. Apparently, people are somehow incapable of critical thinking and just thinking about something. So you have Samuel's view that just because something's traditional, we should continue it, and then a super, super left-wing view that just because something's traditional, we should stop it. I think normal people should just be able to like think about things and think about whether or not we should continue them. But apparently, that's like out of fashion.
So I'm gonna jump in here just to bring everything down for a second. I think what we're dealing with here is, Sam, you believe that your views on women and your views on what women want are the objective, correct views, right? And I think what
just like morality.
yeah, well, that's where I was going with that,
Oh,
because
sorry.
you think it's more morally correct for women to be the homemakers and whatnot. I want to ask Jessica and Amara, do you believe that women are innately nurturing?
No, I think that's a total bullshit stereotype.
I just asked the question.
I mean, I think it's hard to paint all women with the same brush. I definitely think there are clearly women who are nurturing and mothering and want to be mothers and want to have
But
as
that
many
same
kids as
characteristic
possible.
could be masculine.
I agree that there are men who are nurturing. Yeah, that's what I think. Painting all women or all men with the same brush is just difficult because I definitely know women that are in their 50s and 60s and don't have children and are perfectly fine with it and who aren't nurturing necessarily. And I know older men who are a lot more domestic and nurturing than those women. So I think there are women who are nurturing, but I don't think all women are necessarily nurturing.
And to paint them with that same stereotypical brush of women being sensitive and women being nurturing and any woman that expresses an opinion. Because you probably think I'm pretty hysterical right now, don't you? And shrill, as you have called me before, right? And to paint women with all that one paintbrush and that one generalized quote is sexist in and of itself, because those qualities, just because, that is what a good mother, using air quotes if you can't see me on air.
I can see you.
Okay. Those are the qualities that a good mother harbors, and women have to be mothers. That's where your sexism is coming into play.
Oh, I have one more question talking about the family stuff. Mm-hmm. So if a woman, let's say, society, tomorrow morning, you're the dictator of the world and you're going to make society go back to what you think it should. Mm-hmm. And women are societally pressured to stay home with their children.
Sure.
And probably in some cases like explicitly pressured from their parents and their husbands and whatever. So a woman who doesn't want to have kids and doesn't want to be a homemaker is forced into that. How good of a mother do you think she'll be if she's just perpetually unhappy with her situation?
Forced to have children?
Well, not forced to have children, but she has kids and she's forced to stay home. Well, you think that society should pressure women into staying home rather than working?
If they have children.
So a woman has children. She doesn't want to stay home, but her husband basically tells her to, and it's easy for him to do that because society agrees with him.
Yeah.
How good of a mother is she going to be if she's basically forced to stay home and take care of her kids when she doesn't want that? Like, don't you think happy parents make good parents?
No, I think you can get it. You can be adaptable.
So you think if your mom is just like clinically depressed because she was forced into this role that she doesn't want to be in, she's going to be a good mom and you're going to turn out well?
I think that's a very, very hypothetical situation.
No, I don't think that means that it's unable to answer.
Answer the question, Samuel. Mm-hmm. You hold these very regressive views, which you are proud of. Mm-hmm. So answer the goddamn question.
Oh, okay. Getting a little out of left field
Are you
there.
not going to, like, how good of a mother is she going to be? That's all I'm asking.
So society's pressuring her to be a mother?
And because society supports her husband and let's say her
parents. Is it better that society pushes her to get a degree she'll never use?
I asked a question. I asked a question.
Wait.
No, I can't. Wait.
Why
okay, hold on. Answer the question.
Let's start with Amara's question.
Thank you. That woman who is forced into that role by society is clinically depressed because of where she is.
I don't know if they're all women that are forced.
I didn't say that.
Okay,
I'm asking about a specific situation. How good of a mother is she going to be if she's unhappy with, just perpetually unhappy with her life?
Probably a better mother than if she was working full time.
He's still not answering the question. I didn't ask if she would be a better mother than somebody else. I'm asking how good of a mother she would be.
Situation with very narrow
and you don't want to answer the question because the answer to the question would undermine your views. That's why. But all right.
I just want to ask, Amara, when you talk about women being forced, do you believe that's in the sense of their husbands forcing them?
Well, I don't mean like somebody like
slavery?
raping somebody and making them have the kid. That's not what I'm talking about.
Amara's question was if Samuel was the dictator of the world and made women stay home.
I was just saying if the world went to what he wanted to. I was just talking like back before, let's say, second wave feminism, when women weren't like, I don't think there were laws prohibiting women from working. It just wasn't normal. It was normal for women to be a stay-at-home mother. Like in that lifetime, I'm sure there were plenty of women who weren't happy with that role, but because that's what society kind of pushed them into, that's what happened. And I agree that society pushes women away from that. I don't necessarily know if, like, society should be neutral. If you want to be a stay-at-home mom, you should be a stay-at-home mom. If you want to be a working mom, you should be a working mom. If you don't want to have kids, you shouldn't. I don't think society should push anyone anywhere or demonize stay-at-home mothers necessarily, but that's all I'm saying.
Stay-at-home fathers.
Or stay-at-home anybody. I mean, parents. I don't know, just stay-at-home people.
I think, would you guys agree with if the woman does want to stay at home, and for example, in Samuel's relationship, if that's the relationship they want to have,
yes,
is that okay?
Yeah, of course. If that's what she wants to do, that's completely fine.
This comes down to just letting the woman choose what she wants to do and not being forced into a situation purely based on gender roles and gender stereotype. And
you're constructing a new gender role in which it's okay for women to.
However,
a gender role isn't when it's okay. That's not a role.
No. You're constructing a new gender role as opposed to the traditional one, a new radical gender role.
It's radical to let women choose what they want to do.
It's not just letting them choose. It's saying it's noble, it's virtuous to pressure women. You have to get an education for 4 years, and then maybe something post-grad. And then you also have to work for 10 years. Oh, you're 35, you want to have children? Sorry, babe, it's not going to work out for you.
This sounds like a straw man.
Okay, first off,
to me. I don't think anyone said that.
No. First off, having a child at 35 is not, oh, sorry, babe, can't have kids anymore. My mother had me at 36, so relax. Okay. And I came out fine. So your idea that we come out wonky, we're fine.
After 30, hey,
No, that is irrelevant and
I
that is
didn't know
not true.
Samuel was
Women,
a fertility specialist.
Yeah, look it up. I'm not a fertility
That's
specialist. I've
crazy.
just done some
You're
research.
so
you've done
accomplished
some
at 23. That's
oh.
amazing.
I know something called the internet.
He's a
I've
life
looked up-
guru. Isn't the internet
God.
immoral?
Nope.
He's a life guru and
One
a
second, Amara. So you
relationship
had-
expert.
Inconceivable
You- so
that I
you-
would find things that disagree with you.
You can't even
Where's
answer
your vagina?
questions.
Where's your vagina, Samuel?
I don't have one.
So you know
you sure?
everything about our reproductive
know
rights, and
everything
you know
about masculinity.
We're not
No,
talking about
wait.
masculinity
Whoa,
right
okay,
now.
whoa,
We're
whoa,
talking about
let's
second.
just-
We are not talking about masculinity right now, Samuel.
Uh-huh.
We're talking about how you think that women are just under this biological clock, and we only focus on our biological.
Yes,
Let
you
me
are.
finish.
Wait,
and they
wait,
have
let's-
10 years in their 20s to have their children, and then once we hit our 30s, if we haven't had the kids yet, our whole life is completely and utterly ruined. Women can have children up until their 40s and into their 40s.
Mm-hmm.
There have been women that have children in their 50s. Your idea that we're constrained to this 10-year period in our 20s, and if we're not utilizing that by having children and we're just forced by society to go to school, which is not fucking true,
Mm-hmm.
we can do what we want and we can have the choice to do what we want, because if you think that women are being forced to go to school, men are also being forced to go to school.
Did you know by the age of 35, 90% of a woman's eggs are gone?
Yeah, okay, so can I respond to that? That's true. Do you
Mm-hmm.
know how many eggs it takes to make a baby?
Yes, one.
Yeah, so you're born with like
Did
how
you know
many
that
eggs I'm
as eggs
actually
age,
like in a
let's-
sentence.
Let her finish.
Do we know how many eggs women are born with? Because I feel like they're born with a lot.
Probably a couple hundred.
100,000, yeah. So I think even if 97% percent of them are gone, you just need one to be fertilized. My godmother, my Jewish godmother, Elliot, yeah, she's 43. She just had a baby. Obviously,
Wow, that's an anecdote.
we can
Didn't you realize
understand.
it's an anecdote?
We
Well,
can-
okay, let's let Amara finish
Thank
for a second.
you,
and
Elliot.
then we're going to let Samuel
Yeah, of
finish.
course.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah.
Of course, I understand that fertility. I think it's common knowledge that fertility becomes harder the older you get. Menopause is a real thing, but I think it's more just it's not impossible for women to have children after they're 35.
I never said it was impossible.
Yeah, but you kind of did. You said you're 35, you want to have kids
sorry,
now.
babe.
Sorry, babe. Like that's not necessarily true. We live in
I think-
2019. Modern medicine makes it pretty easy for older women to conceive. So.
I think what Sam's trying to get across is that it's healthier and easier to have a baby
That's not
before you
true.
hit.
Yes, it is
But it
completely
might be
true.
biased.
You're just
Wait,
denying
can
bio-
I? So
Sorry.
it is the Raben report. If I think that, like, medically speaking,
Yes.
it is healthier to have a baby
Yes.
before 35, but
Yes.
it's not that it's not possible to and not wrong to have a baby.
And it's
after.
not like very like super difficult to have a baby after your 30s. Also, I think it might be like, I mean, you get your period at like 12. It might be biologically possible or healthier for you to have a child, even like, let's say your late teens, early 20s, mid 20s, but in the society we live in, it's not necessarily like financially beneficial. And if you're 18 and let's say you're at peak fertility, if you don't have a high school diploma, you're probably not going to be able to give your kid the best life. So I think we should take more into account than just our biological clocks.
So we're already an hour in, and I've pretty much asked one question. Let's talk about. So we were talking about life and the roles. Are there certain aspects in life that are easier to be a man versus some easier to be a woman?
Yeah, I completely think so. And if we're just going off of like stereotypes, I think that it's probably more difficult for men to be things like kindergarten teachers or daycare workers and work with children, with small children. I think people would be suspicious. And it's, and it's probably more difficult for women. Like we know a lot of women in the military get sexually assaulted, so it's probably more difficult to be a woman in those roles. And then there are also like physical trade professions that women just don't do, probably because they're like not going to do physical labor the way men do.
As often. I mean, there's still women in those roles.
Yeah, of course. They're just not there as
as
often. Yeah.
Sam?
Sorry,
Do you
was reading
believe that
comments.
there are some roles or some aspects in life where it is easier to be a man versus some where it is easier to be a woman?
Yeah, definitely.
Such as?
Occupation,
As what
Like
Which
what?
occupation?
trade skilled labor is primarily men. If you look at occupations that deal with children, whether it's is a pediatrician. No, that's not. Is pediatrician
That's a doctor.
for children, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, pediatrician.
Kid doctor.
Like high school, middle school, elementary school teachers are primarily female. Anything to do with children.
There's definitely more male teachers in high school. I'm sure there's still more
Maybe-
female teachers,
there's
but
may-
I think
maybe
they
a greater-
get there's more
Yeah,
as
yeah.
they get older.
I guess I can agree with that. Maybe because they're teaching like
Older
art
kids.
sciences and.
I think it's
kids.
also because people are suspicious when men want to spend a lot of time with young children.
Yeah,
Like, I think
can
it'd
see
be
that.
easier to be a high school teacher and be a man than like a kindergarten teacher.
Yeah, and I can pretty much say that I observed that trend growing up.
Yeah, for sure. Most kindergarten teachers are women, for sure.
Yeah. Well,
Or most teachers.
Then let's talk about, because let's move on then to certain fields, because certain fields, as we were saying, are dominated by women and some are dominated by men. Do you believe, or as I've actually written it, are male oriented versus female oriented? Do you believe that
Are we talking about like there's no women in STEM? That sort of thing.
For example, there's less male nurses,
Yeah.
there's more female teachers, there's less female construction workers, less females in STEM. Why is that,
Well,
and is that a good thing
As
or a bad thing?
woman, I will use anecdotal evidence. Just for like the construction worker example, I probably wouldn't sign up to be a construction worker. I'm not strong. You know, I'm not going to do physical labor. I also wouldn't want to. Construction workers have a bad stereotype, and I probably wouldn't want to be a woman working with a bunch of them. So I think, I don't know if we should try to like control what people choose necessarily. Like, if there are not a lot of male nurses, if that's because men don't feel like they can be nurses because they're going to be judged as, not masculine enough or something, I think that's wrong. If you want to be a nurse, be a nurse. If you want to be, a construction worker, if you want to go into STEM, like I would never go into STEM just because I'm not good at science or math. So I think it's just individual choice.
And there's definitely a lot more, regardless of, it doesn't, like, for law, for example, with what I'm going through, I mean, that does not, you do not have to be a man or do not have to be a woman to be in that field. And it's not like there's more men or more women in that field. It just comes down to a lot of sexism and old school mentality when you're working with a lot of older lawyers. I mean, I experienced that working in a law firm this summer where, I dealt with a lot of harassment on that end and told to buy bigger tits instead of putting my money towards law school tuition. So yeah, you're going to deal with it. You're going to see it. You're going to feel it. It's going to make you feel like shit. But that's just that honestly, as sad as it is, that's the state of women, and that's what we have to deal with within the workforce.
That's what I mean when I say like societal pressure. Obviously, if you're a woman and you're doing like an internship at a law firm and someone says that to you, that might discourage you from going into law. Like, I know I've heard a lot of like, it's an old boys club. That sort of stuff discourages women. So I think things like that are bad, but people should choose, and they shouldn't be pushed to one side or the other for any reason other than their own personal choice.
So Sam,
Exactly.
I want to ask you then, because since you believe that let's just confirm, you believe that women shouldn't be the breadwinners, they shouldn't be necessarily working.
It should be. They shouldn't be encouraged to. But
Can they?
Yeah, in rare
Should they be
circumstances.
discouraged to, or should it just be neutral?
No, it shouldn't be neutral. They should be discouraged.
Oh my God.
Okay, so then in that case, looking at a lot of fields that are dominated by women, so a lot of nurses, a lot of teachers, for example, you believe those jobs should be done by men?
No,
So who should do them?
women.
But I thought women were supposed to take care of their kids.
Well, I
Hold
think
on.
there's some occupations that have historically been taken.
What about their children? Their children are what?
Oh, they're going to be such horrible mothers
don't
because they're
understand.
working full time.
Nurses work really long shifts and they work a lot. What? Are nurses just not supposed to have kids?
Samuel, how are you so
I just don't
hypocritical?
understand what's going to happen
I
to
think
nurses' children. I'm really worried.
I'm not
for
So
them.
hypocritical.
So
well,
no,
hold-
it
can
is
I- hold on,
hypocritical
hold on.
saying that.
Let me just continue off.
He's
this
also
question,
demonstrably hypocritical.
Yeah.
because- So let's. I just want to continue on this question.
Sure.
Just one on one. Just if you believe that women should be discouraged from working, but these jobs are held primarily by women,
Sure.
how are
How
they
does that
going to
work?
have how are those jobs going to be filled?
I guess women that are young enough they haven't had children yet, or old enough that they already have
But for
children,
example,
and they're
with
older.
nurses,
Yeah.
it's about experience. If you're
Yeah.
straight out of medical school, then you're not. Or straight, if you just graduate Ryerson and you're a nurse, you're not going to be as
and it
experienced
is
as
it is a very demanding job.
I also have a question.
is.
You said if they haven't had children yet. So what is the right time in your 20s that you think people should get married and have kids?
Before 30.
So just before 30.
Yeah.
It's like, so you come out of school at 21. You have, and like you said, nursing is about, for
plus
example,
medical school.
plus,
if you wanna be a
I don't
doc-
think a nursing degree is 4 years, so I think you're right.
It is. Ryerson is 4 years.
Okay,
Yep.
so
Yeah,
let's
it
say
is.
it's 4 years, 21. You need experience. So how
So
will
you'll-
that all work? Because you don't really have, it's only 9 years. You don't have that much time.
Yeah.
And then are we only going to have nurses that work for, let's say, 6 years until they start having kids at 27? So we're gonna have. I don't think young nurses. Like I don't think the majority of nurses being young out of school would necessarily be that great for
Sure.
people in hospitals.
I think you can advocate that society should view gender roles as normal without. I don't think there'd be a sudden catastrophe when.
Yeah, but you didn't answer the question. You don't
would
think
be
that-
leaving.
Let's
I
let
don't
him
think
finish.
nurses would be leaving hospitals immediately.
Not immediately, but
Yeah.
the next generation, as society progresses, and if it did,
So our
and what
nurse
you think
cycle's
should
gonna
then,
be
happen,
4
so let me
years.
get this straight. Then there'd be less nurses, and then there'd be more demand for them.
there'd be less nurses, and the nurses that existed would have less experience.
Yeah.
I don't see how that would be good for
That wouldn't-
society.
would
Well,
that
then
benefit?
men could fill the role, or other
But I
women,
thought- I was
women that are
asking-
older.
wait,
I don't know.
But I thought that nursing was a
Some women don't.
feminine
Some
field
women
that
don't.
women should go into.
Yeah,
So men should go into feminine fields, or they shouldn't.
I don't think. I kind of push back against the whole nursing is completely feminine.
I didn't.
That's not what we're asking.
Convenient, but okay.
Well, no, you did mention that it was a feminine role. And
Yeah, I
Because he said it was a feminine role.
No, I said that. I asked if it was a feminine.
But no, then we asked what role
Well, I
should
think it
women
went
be
off
in?
of that most nurses
I
are
think-
women, and you said that, and then you said that there are occupations that coincide with gender roles.
No,
and that's
I
where
said
came
that.
from.
I think the first thing I mentioned was that
Can we roll
roles
it
that deal
back?
with children are primarily feminine. That
So
was
you
the
don't
one
think roles that deal with, like, you don't think, if you think women are inherently nurturing and caring,
Yeah.
that just kind of makes sense that they would be medical caregivers.
Yeah,
I feel like this
and
is splitting
they're-
hairs.
Yeah,
So it's all right for men to go into roles that would require them to possess traditionally feminine traits.
Your ideal
I don't-
world here,
I
where
don't, I don't see nursing as entirely. Like,
But nursing is caring for sick people. It's literally
Yeah.
like caregiving.
yeah, that's what a doctor does.
No, doctors and nurses don't do the same things.
I understand that completely.
So
So can
no.
doctors
But
be
they-
female then? Is that okay as well? Like,
Yeah, so why not?
but would you discourage them from having a career
course
as a
he would.
doctor?
Yeah.
Wait, let's
But
let
this
him
doesn't
answer.
make any real sense because, again, like you're just dodging it and saying that
Do you
nursing
think
isn't
before-
necessarily
do you,
feminine.
Do you
but
think
that's not.
before
Doesn't really work.
the mid '60s that there was just a chronic shortage of doctors and nurses?
Well,
We
not
were just-
doctors
we were
because
just
we're not
running
talking
around
about
going,
doctors.
Oh my
So we're
God,
gonna-
we need nurses right away.
Samuel, this
No one believes that. No serious person.
Nobody
believes
is
that.
saying that. You're right. Nobody believes that, and nobody said that.
Okay,
so
but you're saying that-
congratulations.
You're
for-
saying there would be
Let's-
a hypothetical shortage.
No, I'm
Because-
not. I'm saying that nurses would be inexperienced, and I don't think that would be best for hospitals.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be best to have people like I would want my nurse to be old and experienced, or as old as before retirement. But
I think though
really make any
it's also not just about women wanting to work. I think because you believe that women should get married at a certain age and have kids, right?
Yeah.
But what if men don't want to do that at that age, right? Like what if men want to work on their careers as well? So for example, like me personally, I would love to get married and have children earlier than later. However, with my goals and my plans and I want to build my career, I'm not going to be set at 27.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have my career. So is it a problem for me as a man to want to build my career before I have
No,
kids?
you don't have the same biological clock that women
oh
do.
my
well, yes, you do.
God.
Not to
Do
a large
men?
degree, no.
No, it exists.
You're right.
Your sperm
You're
becomes
right.
less valuable
You're right.
as you
But
get older.
It has a higher threshold. It's around 50.
It
You are
still
correct.
exists. That's
Yeah.
what 10 years. It still exists.
So it's okay. It's okay for
40.
men to postpone having the whole men. It's okay for men to put their careers first, and men to put themselves first, and men to put what they want to do first. But it's not okay for women.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not see that? That's really
We're like opposites
derogatory,
on the
and that's really horrible, and that's
I
just
don't view it as
constraining.
horrible.
Oh, so it's not horrible to constrain women into just not even caring about their education, not caring about their personal goals and aspirations, but just resorting them to purely their uterus. That's okay.
That's
We're,
what you-
we're just seeing.
I don't think being a mother is resorting purely to her
But
uterus.
being a
It
mother
is- it-
depends on your uterus. You're talking about our
Exactly.
biological clocks,
And
and,
you
that has to do
resort-
with the eggs in our ovaries being able to be fertilized and implanted in the uteruses.
Yeah,
Uteri?
1 second, and
I don't think-
in 1
So,
second,
yeah,
and
you
just
are.
Okay.
and just to say that our whole point of being on this earth and our whole reason to be on this earth is just resorted purely to our bodies and purely to
How do you
our
think you got here?
My parents loved each other very much.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
My
And they
my,
made
mo-
me.
my mom worked. My mom worked.
My mom worked
in an
as well.
incredibly high, an incredibly high position, and she was making more than my father before she left that position and started to work at a different job now.
Mm-hmm.
If we're doing anecdotal evidence, because you asked for it, my parents also kind of switched.
One
didn't-
second.
I
Let
didn't
me
ask
let
for
me
anecdotal.
finish this
Well, you
point.
asked where
Let
she
me
came from,
finish
which is
this
an
point.
anecdote.
Exactly. Let me finish this point. My mother had me at 36.
Mm-hmm.
She had another baby after me. I came from a family where those gender roles were irrelevant. I am totally fine. My mother wasn't just resorted purely to her ability to have children. Her having children came at her time when she decided she wanted to do it, not when my father decided that he wanted to have children. And she is an incredibly powerful woman now and doing everything that she wants to do for her career, and we never suffered. I wasn't raised by a nanny, and I was still raised by my grandparents, and I was still raised by her, and I did not turn out wrong at all. I'm incredibly determined.
You're taking this very personally.
Yeah, because Samuel, you're saying that my only purpose here in this world is to have children and because of my uterus.
I'm just saying you'd be a lot happier if you were.
Oh, I would be a lot happier because you telling me just having children and me one day being a stay-at-home mom, I'm going to be so much happier, even though that's not what I want to do, compared to me doing and pursuing everything that I'm pursuing now, and what I have been studying for the past 3 years, and what I'm going to be continuing studying for another 3 years on top of this, and me establishing a career. After all that work that I've put into it, all that money I've invested into it, all that stress I've invested into it, just to throw it all away just because I have a damn uterus, I'm going to be happier.
Can I just say
how
one thing?
dare you tell me? No, how dare you tell me what's going to make me happy, and to say that what I'm happy is just purely because of society telling me that it won't make me unhappy. I am making my decisions based on myself and what I want, not because society is telling me that I have to get an education and I have to do all this and I have to do all that. It would be you have the same argument of society telling me that I have to have children and I have to be fulfilled through having children. If I have children one day, that is fantastic, and that's probably what I'm going to do. But I'm going to also be a working person and not just a working.
I just think the idea that there's some sort of certainty that every single woman wants to be a mom and a wife is just honestly like ignorant. I'm sure statistically
and
you could see
overwhelming
that.
majority, and don't you understand when
majority doesn't
when we're
mean
applying
all.
norms,
Like,
you can't
just ridiculous.
You can't throw these anecdotes and these
Stop asking for anecdotes then. Stop asking people about their personal experiences.
I'm talking. You can't throw out these anecdotes and these outliers and just dissuade an entire healthy traditional norm, but just by saying, well, that may be true, but look at this subject A over here that completely destroys your worldview.
All I'm saying is that you can't possibly be certain that Jessica will be happier if she had children.
And
there's no way you would know
I'm
that.
saying on average, probably most women would.
That's not what you said.
You just said I would be happier if
I said you probably would be.
No.
Regardless, Samuel, how do you have the right to tell me that I'm going to be happier in a situation where I don't want to be in? Like, honestly, tell me why you think that. How do you, because I know that I'm not allowed to talk about anything masculine because that's totally out of my realm and totally out of my education, and my small woman mind can't take it. But how do you have the right to tell me what's going to make me happy and what I have to do as a woman and what I have to do with my uterus? Like, what if I can't have kids?
I don't think this conversation
really
is going to get anywhere.
I mean that completely
personally.
sincerely.
I think we should.
So I'm just gonna put the camera back on me because I didn't have one on me. But I want to talk about just lastly. I lost my track of thought because it was too much. I want to go to that question, but I just wanted to I don't know. Oh man. Okay, you guys kept talking, so I couldn't run the show. Let's move on to having children accidentally, unplanned.
Mm-hmm.
Abortions. Just say it.
Hey,
I'm getting there.
He's framing.
I'm framing it. So there's a question involved. In terms of if you are hoping to I remember what I wanted to talk about. Okay. The question that I wanted to ask was, do you believe, all of you, that to some degree having children can enlighten your life or make your life better?
I will go first.
Yeah. Well,
because it's gonna go.
Yeah.
So
let's keep this at one at a time for this one.
What was the question? Will having kids enlighten you?
Is there a possibility for it? Does it have actual scientific evidence that
I don't know about that. Like I don't know.
Okay.
It's possible that there is.
Hold on, let's stick to Amara for a sec.
But I think that it's completely possible for children. I think everyone's heard that from adults who have kids, that it's fulfilling and it's enlightening. I'm sure we all come from parents, so becoming a parent yourself is just enlightening in the fact that you're now on the other side and can probably understand your parents better now that you're parenting. I don't know if it would be for everyone. I think it'd be enlightening just because it would be new information, but I don't know if it would necessarily be fulfilling for everybody. And I think it's a little bit just not really polite to tell people that they won't be fulfilled if they don't have kids. But I think it's a individual thing.
Sam?
Yeah, I think definitely they're fulfilling.
Definitely.
I can't wait to have some.
And Jessica?
I'm not going to deny that. I mean, yeah, of course it could be fulfilling. But again, I totally agree with Amara. I mean, if that's something that you really want and that you'll feel fulfilled by having, then 100% you should go for it. But if it's something that you don't want and you don't want to, and you're just feeling that, you know, having them, I feel forced to have them, or whatever the argument may be, then I don't think you're going to feel fulfilled by it. So yeah, totally personal preference, personal what you want to do with your life, and what a woman wants to do with her own body.
Well, and why is my camera up there? Well, speaking of doing things with your own body, I'm going to go back to what I was starting with, which is unplanned pregnancies and, you know, for rape as well. We're talking about abortion. The question is, before anybody answers, I want one at a time. I don't want everybody yelling out their answers. Should abortion be legal, Amara?
I think, okay, the abortion conversation, if we're talking about abortion and morality, and that's a big conversation.
Yeah.
Me personally, I think abortion should be legal up until the fetus would be viable outside of the womb.
Which is when?
I am not
Is that
completely
the third
sure.
trimester, I would say?
I don't know, actually.
Okay.
I was born at... No, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Like, for me, I was a premature baby. I was born at 7 months. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I am alive. So I think as long as the fetus is dependent on the mother's body to survive, abortion should be legal.
Sam?
No.
It should be completely illegal.
Yeah.
Okay. And Jessica?
Of course it should be illegal. Every woman should have
Wait,
the right.
illegal?
Legal.
Oh, I heard
Oh my
legal.
God. Of course it should be legal. Every woman has the right to decide what she wants to do with her body. I disagree with Amara because there are reasons why a woman might need to have late-term abortions.
I agree. I think, most of the time late-term abortions at like 7 or 8 months it's a wanted pregnancy that went wrong.
Yeah.
So I don't think the mom should die because, So I meant like elective abortions. Like you should be able to choose to have an abortion up until the baby is viable outside of the womb. Obviously, if it's a medical problem, doctors should do what they need to do.
Okay.
100% should be legal. That is not anything up for discussion.
Now, let's talk about opinions on abortion. Are men allowed to have opinions on abortion?
No.
I think
Yes.
so. I think if we're talking about legislation, it's not like all politicians are women, and I don't think it would be fair. Like, that's not democratic to say all the male politicians have to get out. So I think they have a place legally there. In just like casual conversations like this, I mean, I think there should be some sort of acknowledgement. I think that it's probably a little bit of a different issue for women, as the fetus, the pregnancy would be happening inside of our bodies. But I think if you're in a relationship with somebody and you're considering that, it should be a conversation.
Okay.
So.
Jessica, you said no.
I think listen, if a woman got pregnant, I'm not saying that, of course, everybody is entitled to have an opinion on the matter. Samuel is entitled to his opinion. Do I agree with him? Hell no. If there is a situation where there is a relationship put in place and a woman gets pregnant unexpected and she wants to have an abortion, it is ultimately her body and her decision and her choice what happens.
I agree with that because I think you're not going to be able to drag somebody kicking and
Exactly.
screaming to get an abortion, and you can't really prevent them. So I think, like, obviously the actual decision comes down to the woman, but I think in terms of legislation and stuff, everybody should be able to participate.
Yeah, that's just I agree with that's a democracy.
Yeah.
I mean, the situations that were happening with the abortion bans in the States, where it was just a bunch of old men legislating on the matter, and there wasn't any female. There was like one woman, in charge, having a voice in that discussion. Totally ridiculous, and that's not democratic. But in what we're talking about here, and if there's a relationship, man and a woman, and there's an unplanned pregnancy on the line, yeah, that's 100% the woman's choice what she wants to do with the matter. That being said, if you're in a relationship and you're having sex with somebody,
talk about it.
you should have that conversation immediately.
Yeah,
if you're
beforehand.
pro-choice or pro-life, if a woman is pro-choice and the man's pro-life and she gets pregnant, yeah, that's going to be totally up to her. That's going to be her choice. That's going to be her call what she wants to do or what she doesn't want to do. A man doesn't have a say in what she has to go through and what she has to deal with and what bringing a pregnancy to
That's
term.
where I was going next. So say they're in a relationship and the woman gets pregnant. So you're saying the man has no say whether the baby is kept or not.
Of course, he can have a say in the matter, but the ultimate choice comes down to her.
I think that just goes down to what I was saying. Like, I think if you're in a healthy, respectful, long-term, committed, whatever, relationship or marriage, whatever it is, like, you're going to talk about it. I couldn't see, a healthy woman just, not telling her husband and just, I'm sure that happens, but I think
it has happened, because I brought it up because there was a case, I believe I read, maybe not recently, but I read about that a woman went and had an abortion without telling the man.
So I think that's horrible. I think that's not necessarily what you should do in a healthy adult relationship. I think there will obviously be a conversation, but I think if there's a serious disagreement on it, it is ultimately going to come down to the woman's choice, because like I said, you can't drag somebody kicking and screaming to an abortion clinic, and you can't prevent them from going. So.
And that situation where the woman didn't tell her husband, we don't know the full facts of that story. It could have been something abusive. It could have been she would have been forced to have that baby, and she didn't want to have that. We don't know the situation there, so we shouldn't talk about it.
I mean, it if we're talking about anecdotal stuff, like I read about it, and the man was devastated because he really wanted the child. But that's just
regardless,
the question.
It's her body.
So, but then you're going to the idea that he has no say.
But Elliot, what do you think the recourse for him would be? Like, if she said, "I'm pregnant, I don't want this baby," and he said, "I want you to have it," and she really didn't, at the end of the day, I empathize with him, but what can he really do?
That's what I'm trying to get at. The discussion should be had, but in this article, the discussion was not had.
Yeah, I think that's horrible, and I empathize with him completely.
And that's where
I think
the question was stemming
devastating.
from. Should men have?
I think they should if it's like a one night stand. She's probably not going to tell him, but I think in a relationship they should absolutely have a say. But I just really hope that it doesn't happen where they have a serious difference of opinion on abortion, because it's going to be heartbreaking.
I mean, that'd be a deal breaker for me. I wouldn't date somebody that was pro-life.
Yeah, and you should know somebody's feelings on abortion and contraception before you have sex with them, so that you can avoid these situations.
So let's talk about that. Let's backtrack before the pregnancy occurs. Contraception. Whose responsibility is it to use protection? Both parties? Only one person?
Both. Like, if when you get into a relationship with somebody that's long-term and exclusive, you usually have that conversation, because most of the birth control methods that aren't condoms are things that women have to do, other than like a vasectomy, which is not permanent, but a big decision. So I think it's both. If you're sleeping with people as a man, protect yourself, like wear a condom. Absolutely.
But if it's, so I don't know, in a lot of relationships or a lot of situations, it's either like a condom or birth control, or like one or the other. Yeah, the pill.
And there's a lot of forms of birth control. There's the pill, the IUD, the patch, all that. In long-term relationships, people usually, anecdotal evidence, I don't have stats, but people don't tend to like condoms, so they usually don't use them, and then they usually have the pill or some hormonal form of birth control that the woman takes, because that's kind of all that's available. So that's usually what happens. But I think that in terms of like the responsibility, you should both make sure that you're protected. I think having the conversation and making sure your girlfriend is on the pill is still you taking the responsibility to protect yourselves.
And the pill has more than one benefits of just not getting pregnant. Like,
it's used to regulate periods.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff. Endometriosis, I think.
Does it have? Does the pill have an effect on future pregnancies?
No, there's no scientific evidence that supports that claim whatsoever.
Okay. Sam, what are your thoughts on the whole situation of protection? Because one of your viewpoints is that people shouldn't be having premarital sex, right?
Are you having premarital sex?
Oh, that got personal.
Oh no, because we know your morals are quite hypocritical. So
I think I've clarified this before in the previous show. I think the general rule is don't have sex with women that you're not in a relationship with long term. You aren't 100% sure on your social views, that they're compatible, and
so it's not necessarily marriage. It's just casual sex. You think is immoral.
Yeah,
it's totally so.
And what about contraception?
Like, whose responsibility is it? Should you both be using it?
Is it immoral?
No.
Contraception is not immoral.
I have problems with the female birth control, because it's like a chemical lobotomy. Like, it really changes. You can look these up. It really changes the female brain. It even changes mate selection. It's really interesting. You should look it up.
Well, there are anecdotal evidence, but I can't.
That's not anecdotal evidence.
No, I was.
Okay,
my evidence is going to be anecdotal.
Sure.
That wasn't anecdotal evidence.
Okay.
You're right. I've been on 2 types of birth control pills. It's personal, and the first one was absolutely horrible. For my like the side effects are absolutely horrible, mentally. So I think. The female birth control pill doesn't necessarily seem to I've heard you're not supposed to be on it for more than 10 years, and there's it's common knowledge that it can cause depression and mental illness issues in women. So I think that's true. I just think that a lot of women, society's changing, and we don't necessarily want to have children as soon as we are able to.
Sure.
So women in let's not talk about promiscuity, long-term committed relationships, even if you don't want to have kids, you want to protect yourself. So you kind of have to use hormonal
I just
birth
don't see the
control.
benefits. If you're going to be in a long-term relationship, there's other methods, and I don't see the benefits of
Well, there are allergies and reasons people don't use other methods sometimes.
In terms of
condoms or
Yeah.
female birth control.
There's people can be allergic to condoms,
I know, but you mean to latex?
and people can have issues with being irritated by non-latex condoms as well. People can have sensitivities towards condoms,
Poor guy.
or a girl.
oh, yeah, it's both. Like
Yeah, I
both
guess
can
so.
have an issue
And it'd
with.
be pretty bad either
It'd be
way.
worse.
I hadn't heard about it. The female.
Really?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Well, so you said that you have a problem. So you have a problem with female contraception or like the pill in
Yeah.
long-term relationships. So do you believe it's just the man's responsibility to wear a condom? Like, what should women do to protect themselves?
No, I said in general, I just have a problem with female birth control.
So what would you recommend? Just a
For
condom?
men
or-
that are in a long-term
For
relationship.
like people in long-term
Yeah.
relationships, if you don't think that they should
I
take
think
the
it's a
pill.
discussion to have with your partner. But I'd advise to look into female with birth control, the negative.
Okay.
Okay, well, right now I think the negative would be having an unplanned pregnancy, and I'm fine on birth control. I've
Hey,
been on
don't
it for
have,
a long time, so
Don't have sex with people you can't accept the risk of an unwanted pregnancy with.
okay, like don't tell
But
me
don't
who
you
to have
think
sex
that
with.
having children out of wedlock is like bad for the kids?
Yeah.
So
So you ever heard of shotgun wedding?
that's more moral. Getting married because you're pregnant,
Not because you love
not
them,
because
not because
you
of
want
anything
to make
else.
that commitment, is more moral than having a child outside of wedlock.
But you could love them too. It's just
yeah, you
happened,
could, but
right?
you getting into a marriage because of fear, because you're afraid of
No,
what
for
would
the child.
happen.
For the child.
But you're having like my parent, anecdotal evidence, but my parents were together for 25 years before they were married. Nothing changed after they were married. They were together my whole life.
I wanted to reference that.
They
earlier.
were basically married my whole entire life. So them going and getting legally married didn't change anything in terms of parenting me and my brother.
And I don't know the dynamic between your parents at all, or what their
But
marriage is like.
why
so
do
I
you think
couldn't-
dynamics would change so much if you're in a long-term relationship with somebody after you were married to them? Like I don't understand.
I think it's
Really?
because again, it goes back to societal norms,
Well,
but
that's just
generally,
BS.
Well, less and
okay.
less people are getting married now because I think less and less people are also religious, and I think religion probably has a big deal to do. Like religious people are probably more likely to get married, and I think that there probably is a difference there. But in terms of like secular mainstream society, less and less people are getting married, I think, because people are kind of realizing that it's really just a piece of paper and rings. Like you're common law married if you live together after 3 years. So I don't really understand the necessity of having, you don't necessarily have to have a wedding, but being legally married.
Listen, I don't think that a child that is raised by two committed parents having that, ring on your finger is going to make them any lesser of parents. If there's
Yeah, I'm just not clear
Yeah,
on what that would
exactly.
change for the
two
children.
people together
personally.
that are in a committed relationship and are committed to raising that child, if they're married or not is irrelevant.
I think it's a matter of accountability because,
No,
and I think
because
well,
if they're
no,
in a
but
committed
hold on,
relationship-
hold on. It's a matter of accountability because if they do not, and I don't necessarily think this is the right opinion, the wrong opinion. This is just I think what Samuel is trying to get at, which is accountability. So you can be great loving parents even if you're not in a relationship or you're not married, but if something happens, there's no accountability for
But there
who
is,
takes
because if you're
legal accountability.
there is.
Yes,
If you're
there
not,
is
if,
common law marriage. That
But
is still
even
the
if you're
same legal
not-
commitment as a
if
legal
you're
marriage.
not married and you have children together and you separate, you can still get child support. You don't have to be married for that. You can still go to family court and work out visitation and stuff like that. So you are definitely would still be legal. You wouldn't be like as a woman, because most of the time it's a single mom. You wouldn't be left high and dry with your kids. You can still legally go after the father of their children, even if he wasn't your husband.
Common law is after 2 years of living together, and so if as long as you don't have your kid within like 6 months, then there's still that same amount of accountability. And regardless if you have that kid after 6 months, you still have both parent, there's still both custody. Like, each parent has equal custody over that child until you work something out within the court system. So yeah, that accountability is exactly the same. Because you're married does not have any effect on the situation whatsoever. I think it is more toxic to put a child through a really brutal and rough divorce because
Yeah,
two
that's
parents
what I
wanted
was gonna say.
two parents felt that they had to get married as soon as possible, shotgun wedding, because if they didn't, then their child was going to be screwed up, and then they're miserable together, and then they put their child through a really, really rough divorce.
Or let's say they don't put their child through the divorce, because I'm sure you would say divorce is immoral.
Yeah.
so if they're in a toxic relationship and they don't necessarily like each other and they had a shotgun wedding because they were sure that they were going to be committed when they got pregnant and they decided to get married and they've grown up or whatever and realized that they don't necessarily want to be together because they didn't get married. They got like of their own choice. They got married because they felt they had to for the pregnancy. I don't think that would be a good environment to raise children in if you're like your first romantic relationship is a toxic relationship.
And
it's definitely not good for kids.
In cases of abusive relationships,
Not necessarily abusive, just toxic and dysfunctional. That doesn't have to be abuse.
I'd like to clarify what do you mean by toxic?
Well, just a bad relationship. If you're staying together for the children and you're not happy together, I'm not saying you're good, like domestic violence and things like that, or verbal abuse, whatever sort of abuse. I hope you wouldn't say that's something you should. I don't think you would say that's something that you should stick through for the kids. It's obviously not good for the kids. No. But I still think that a dysfunctional relationship where you don't necessarily love each other, but you're staying together for the kids wouldn't be good for them either.
I think
because your parents are your first romantic relationship example as well too.
Yeah, of course.
So if you have a bad example, then you might not necessarily like that's not good. It's probably not good for you like mentally growing up and not good in your future relationships as well.
Yeah.
So the shotgun wedding idea might not necessarily be the best for kids because their parents might not be the best. And I think your parents should be the best they can to be the best for you as a child.
Sure, but I think more likely than not, I think there'd be some kind of understanding that you're trying to raise a child and it's a new life. It's innocent.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be happy. Of course you want that, and that's why they got married, because that's what they understand and they want that. But if they're not happy, they're not happy.
When you have sex, you accept the risk that
But that still doesn't mean that you're going to be happy and be good parents.
I know, but you accept the risk that you could have that.
Okay.
And if you were smart enough to realize that you're having sex with someone, that it'd be someone of good moral character or someone you at least get along with.
Yeah, but you shouldn't just at least get along with your husband or your wife.
Sure.
You're raising children with them.
Yeah, so you should be very careful about.
So what happens if you're not careful?
Well, then live with the consequences.
Now this child is living with the consequences.
No.
Yes, they are completely.
Okay, no, a man or a woman.
Yes.
Should be very careful about who they.
Yeah, they should. People should do a lot of things, and they don't.
If you're talking about solely the relationship between the man and the woman, I don't grieve much for them if they.
Yeah, but don't you grieve for the child who has parents who don't love each other?
Yes, absolutely.
But now there's a child who has parents who don't love each other.
Yeah, but outside of an abusive relationship, this is getting very specific, but I do want to answer. Outside of an abusive relationship, I think the benefits of two parents being together and at least supporting the child emotionally, financially, whatever, is I agree it's not ideal, right?
I think it's possible to emotionally support and financially support your child together and not necessarily be together. I don't think like divorced families or separated parents are something anybody would advocate for necessarily, but I still think that might be a better solution, because in the not ideal situation you're still looking for the best situation. So I think that might be better than just staying together because you're because you feel like you have to.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. But I guess the way you could avoid that outside of a spontaneously abusive or mentally ill partner is that you just, I guess, vet your partner.
Yeah, but you might not be able to that well. Also, depends, how long should you be with somebody before you're married? Because the rest of your life is a really long time, so they might change. You might not know them.
It's a wager, I guess, right?
It is. That's the point.
So
it's kind of what I'm getting
sure.
at. You can't. That's the point.
You can't
It's a bargain. It's a bargain, and you should. It's life.
So you're gambling your children's your future children's mental health. That's what that sounds like to me.
I think what he's trying to say is that you should be smart with your actions, and if you, I guess, I don't know if it's gambling.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
That you should be I don't think that you should just
don't have sex with loose, immoral women. You
oh
know
my
you're not
God.
Well,
so don't have sex with loose, immoral men.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
I don't necessarily think that promiscuous.
Don't call women loose.
What do you mean by loose?
It's promiscuous.
Oh my God, promiscuous is not loose. Women are allowed to want to go and have sex with somebody that they're not married to.
I don't think that promiscuity is necessarily immoral. Personally, I think.
What's your idea of promiscuity? Wearing something that's low cut?
Ew.
Oh my God!
Is that wasn't a yes or no?
Honestly, yeah. Is that your definition?
I thought promiscuity was having sex with a lot of people casually.
Yeah, it is.
So what does that have to do with wearing something low cut?
I don't know. I said you because she mentioned it.
Yeah, and then you kind of were like, doesn't that
so
give you
boobs
an
are,
answer? So I don't really know what that means.
No,
oh my God.
That gets into a whole other conversation about women dressing, and I think that you don't really know how many men or people a woman has slept with from how she dresses. I'm not going to say that you're wardrobe isn't it's an expression of yourself, and of
I
course
think
that
that's
expresses
totally
things.
irrelevant. What a woman wants to wear, a woman wants to wear, and it has no demon factor on her who she is whatsoever. If she wants to wear something that's totally covered up or totally not covered up at all, that is her choice. That is her, all the power to her. Who the hell cares? If you, where the problem is with you, who is judging that woman for showing her own skin, which she's totally entitled and allowed to do.
You know that Dave Chappelle skit about? I'm sorry, lady. You may not be a whore, but you're wearing a whore's uniform.
Oh my god,
You know that?
that is so derogatory, Samuel.
But here's the thing that I think genuinely, you can we live in Canada in 2019. We don't live in
okay, true enough.
1984, the book, not the year. There's no such thing as thought crimes, really, right? Big Brother isn't always watching you. You're not going to so you can think whatever you want. That's completely fine. But I don't know. It's just kind of aren't we past that? And what people have different ideas of what's necessarily a whore's uniform. Some people would say women should. There are people who don't think women should wear bikinis or even one pieces. There are people that don't think women should wear pants.
Are there things that men shouldn't wear,
Yeah,
what?
such as?
distasteful clothing, I guess.
What's distasteful clothing? Like things with
in Samuel's
swear words
opinion,
on it or something?
Yeah, or it depends.
On?
But like what? Like what? For example, an
The
article of
season.
clothing.
Because I think sorry to just say your question is really good, because this modesty, the modest dress conversation is always centered around
Exactly.
women. And I think that, okay, you should dress for the environment you're in. Don't go to your graduation wearing club clothes, obviously. But I think it usually comes out of high schools and spaghetti straps and leggings and things like that. And I think this is so off topic, but I feel like it's two things. It first demonizes women for having shoulders, and we should tell spaghetti straps. People aren't allowed to wear those, and I think we should, tell young boys you're going to be distracted by clothing in the future, and also that women are sexual as well, and they look at boys in high school.
Well, we are getting close to the end of our show, and we have a big announcement from Jessica near the end. But she's I think yeah. Well, you're going to let our viewers know, but not yet. But I just want to talk about men and women as a whole to wrap up the show. Do you believe men and women are ever going to be equal? Are they currently equal? Are they ever going to be equal?
Equal under the law, or in the norms we push them to the roles that we encourage them to take?
In each of those categories. Under the law, let's start with that.
Sure.
I think we are equal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about in terms of societal norms or
I think
careers. Are we equal?
so. I think no, I don't think so. Clearly, and I think we should try to get there. Physically, we're not ever going to be equal. Men are bigger and stronger than women most of the time, but I think we're moving there. We're farther than we were 20 years ago, so I think we should keep going. And can I just ask, what do you call it? Someone said, Jerome Bennett said, Sam's literally just playing devil's advocate. Are you just playing devil's advocate, Samuel, or is this what you really think?
No,
Sorry, Jerome, but I really believe most of this.
Okay. I just wanted that to be...
Yeah, that's what Victoria said. She said he's not playing devil's advocate. It's clearly his actual views.
Preach.
So I guess...
Just wanted that to be clear to everyone watching.
Well, I think the important thing is that everybody's allowed to have their views.
We
whether
have freedom
they're
of speech in this wonderful Western democracy.
Yeah, and whether or not we agree with those views, I think it's important to have a dialogue about it.
I'm glad I can vote.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you.
Jessica.
Are we equal right now?
Yeah.
Definitely not. I don't think women, as long as women are afraid to go in an Uber alone or afraid to walk to the subway past 10 o'clock by themselves, we are not equal. I do agree with Amara that we're definitely a lot more equal now than they were, let's say, in the 50s.
I think it's going to keep going.
And we're not going to be equal as long as there's people like Samuel out in the world.
I would say I don't think
with your
that,
opinions, thinking that I don't have the right to go out and do whatever
well, the right
I
to do
want.
a lot of things. A lot of things that are basic
I've
human
not
rights in our
attacked your-
democracy.
I've been very polite, and I'm going to keep being
you've
polite
been
because
so
I'm a gentleman.
polite.
I don't
Oh
think
my
that's true. I don't think
God.
you should give Samuel that much power. He can think what he like. The views he has right now are pretty outdated. I don't think that most men you could pull wouldn't think that. So I don't think that you should give.
No, I don't
Samuel-
think most men think like me either.
Yeah,
So-
they don't. I don't
But
think
you
should.
just said no.
I'm just
stop.
like, don't give
You
them that
have
much
said-
power.
You have said that all men have most men, and when you pointed at the camera, most men think like you and agree
Yeah,
with your
most sane
opinions.
men.
Oh,
I
so
don't
the men that
necessarily
don't
think
agree
completely
with
like
you are
You're
not
insane, Elliot. You're insane.
I mean, I have been told that. So.
Okay.
You're a whack
Let me-
job.
let
Psychotic.
me-
What
let
kind of
me-
man is this?
Okay,
Sorry.
let me rephrase. As long as there are people that harbor these really derogatory opinions on women and gender roles, we're not going to achieve full equality.
I don't think so, because all I'm saying is, like, I agree that those views are not, we wouldn't be equal if everyone thought like Samuel, but not everyone does, and most people don't, and I think less and less people are going to. So I think people are perfectly fine to be bigots, and they're to themselves. They're going to keep to themselves and marry women who are okay with marrying bigots, but I don't think that that's going to be societally the norm. It's not the norm now, and I think it's not going to be in the future.
I hope that
When you guys
one
are,
day.
when you folks are 35 and miserable, let me know.
You can tell.
Oh
I
my
didn't realize that we had a
God.
psychic on the
Yeah.
panel. That's crazy. You should tell people about that amazing ability.
When I'm 35 and living my life and a successful lawyer with a stay-at-home husband,
And my
I
expensive
will be
bottle of wine and my
incredibly
little
happy.
chow.
Wait, I have a question. Am I going to get a dog in the future? Do you know?
Hey,
I just really want to know, because you can apparently tell my
You
future.
might.
This is
You might.
crazy.
You
we should
might.
have done just fortunes this
you
whole
might
show.
actually replace a child with a small little animal.
Will
That
I?
is a lot easier to
For
take care
sure,
of.
will I do that, or might I have a kid? Do you know?
It might
Samuel-
be
What's going to
very
happen in my
likely.
uterus? I'm wondering. It's crazy that you do. You're such a talent.
Stay out of my life.
Hey, you're off the show. I don't have to.
Oh yeah, there's my.
Well,
I'm
there's
done.
the announcement, Jessica.
That was polite. I think that's what Jesus would have done.
Yep.
Very
Yeah.
moral.
Yeah.
Well, it was announced, but we're gonna get back to that. What? Well, way to throw it out there, Sam.
Sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
He repented, so it's not immoral
Yeah.
anymore. It's okay.
Well,
with his no religion.
do you think feminism has made men and women more equal? Like third wave feminism. Let's talk about that. Do you think that form of feminism has really helped or hindered?
No. I think that first wave feminism, correct me if I'm wrong, is like voting,
Yeah.
like women's suffrage, and then second wave was like working,
Yeah.
and then third wave is now. So I think the big issues, like women not being able to vote or not being able to work, are solved. Those are the big legal issues that we needed. Like the Person's Case, we've all learned about that. We're Canadian. Women had to go all the way to Britain to be considered people under the law in Canada. Those things are done. I think the inequalities that we have now are very specific and anecdotal, and in certain situations like this. So I think it's difficult to have an organized movement that fights against that, if that makes sense. So I think trying to do that often just demonizes all men. I think that's a lot of what people feel about third wave feminism, and a lot of women don't call themselves feminists because of that. And I don't think that necessarily works. We can have conversations about certain ideas, but I don't think third wave feminism does a good job of what it's trying to do.
I'm a feminist, and I'll always identify as being a feminist. I do not agree with the extremist movements thinking that all men are bad, and that just demonizing all men and saying all men are the problem for our issues. I don't agree with that at all. I'm a feminist because I agree, and I want to fight for the equality of women and the equality of genders and the equality of sexes. There are issues with the current feminist movement, but there's also a lot of pros, and those pros are female empowerment, as well as standing up for women that are being slut shamed, and looking at Me Too. Like that's a large factor with
I agree with
feminism
that
as well. And those are the areas that I really focus on, and those are the areas that I identify with. I do not agree at all by saying that all men are bad and all men are the problem, because that is not true. There's a lot of systemic issues that we haven't totally addressed yet, and that's hopefully what we will address one day. There's a
agree
lot
with
of
that.
male feminists out there as well that are fighting just as hard for women, for the equality of women and the equality of sexes, as there are women fighting for that equality.
Well, what's interesting is that there was a study done at Cornell, and I don't remember the specific numbers, but it was that it was about like 85% of women identified as being pro equal rights, but only around like 7% identified as feminists.
It's because
Yeah.
feminism has such a negative connotation towards it, and you identify as a feminist and you're seen as some crazy liberal, hate all
There's
men
an
woman.
unfortunate loud minority in modern feminism, I think, they get attention because they say crazy things, and it is the demonizing all men, demonizing stay-at-home moms, demonizing any sort of societally prescribed feminine role. And I don't think anybody agrees with that. So I think that's why that shows that women do want equal rights. They just don't identify with today's feminist movement.
And that's exactly what I said. Like, I will always identify as a feminist. But I if a woman wants to choose to stay at home, then I give her all the power and all my support and all my love. If she's being forced to stay at home, that's where I'm going to have an issue. Do I think all men are bad? No, I don't. There's some amazing incredible men out there that are going to fight for the same causes that I'm fighting for, and I'm not going to hate them because of their gender. That's not equality, and that's not feminism.
And that's just textbook sexism.
Exactly. Exactly.
So what is the future then of gender relations in Canada?
And I think it's just gonna keep going. Like we said, I think we've progressed even to where we were. Like talking to my mom. My mom's 43, so she was my age like 20 something years ago, and just the way that she describes relations between men and women, it seems like it's definitely progressed, and I think it's just going to keep progressing. I think it'll get better.
Sam?
I think so.
How I see the future of gender roles between
Gender relations.
Gender relations. Probably more animosity between men and women.
What do you mean by that?
Well, as Jessica described it, there's this men-hating feminists. I know they're a minority. I will concede that. But it's the people that are radical and really believe in what they believe that push the majority of, I guess, non-politically minded people in whatever direction they see fit. It's just a fact about how societies work. So I see it getting worse. Yeah.
Interesting. So they would need to be not eradicated, but they would need to
Just
not be the voice.
Yeah,
of
the majority
movement.
just needs to be louder. Like normal people just need to be crazy.
But that's with anything.
We've all seen like
There's-
SJW
yeah.
cringe compilations on YouTube. Those aren't,
That's not the
real
norm.
people. Nobody real obviously they exist, but you know what I mean. Like feminists don't. I think if there, I don't know, maybe there's a club here, but I'm sure that it wouldn't be all blue-haired man-hating women.
The thing is, people that scream the loudest and say the most radical and not cool things, those are the people that are going to get the attention, and those are the people that are always in the minority, and people that don't, like men hating feminists and people and women that are just go off on rants and how much men are the problem. That's such a small minority of feminism, and true feminists aren't going to ever agree with them and aren't ever going to support that. And those are the majority. But in any cause ever, every movement, every group, there's going to have their extremists, and the majority are always going to disagree with those extremists. But the extremists are the ones that are most radical, so they're going to get the most, attention, the most, the views on social media and all that kind of stuff as well.
Right.
But you gotta stick with the true cores and the true values of what
It's really just equality of the
exactly,
sexes.
that is the basis. Anybody that wants equality of the sexes, then that's feminism.
Yeah. Well, it was definitely a lively discussion.
Did we cover everything?
No.
No, I still got a couple things, but you know what? We covered the majority of things. Before we go, Jessica, would you like to say a few words about the announcement that Sam
spoiled it?
I am done my career with the Raben report.
Yeah.
So thank you for a lively and stress-filled season.
Pleasure to have you.
Yeah.
Did
I'll
you
miss you.
did you enjoy your time here? What was it? What was the experience like? What do you want to tell our viewers why you're leaving? It's just not.
I just got a really
Packed
crazy
schedule.
next semester, and I got to start working a lot more for my ginormous tuition coming up. So I can't manage all of it at once, as well as staying sane. But yeah, it was I liked debating. It was great debating. Samuel and I are quite different people, so that was always fun.
Interesting.
Interesting is the
Lively.
word right there. But yes, it was definitely a time.
Well, we are very happy to have had you, and
Thank
you're
you.
always welcome back as a
Oh,
guest
thank you.
if you would like.
Come back for the finale.
Oh boy.
Oh, I would like to see that. I have to say, please do.
Yeah,
Nobody's
please.
going to say what the finale episode is. Only we know. So you'll have to stay
That's true.
tuned.
Don't spoil it.
I will not.
Jesus wouldn't do that.
No, it's
So
in the New Testament. Don't spoil.
that was our show. That was our last show of the season. Thank you to everyone that tuned in and that messaged us live. We had a massive audience today, so thank you, because it was a very lively debate. It was a great way to end Jessica's time here at the Raben Report. We will be back in January, hopefully, with a brand new and final season. It's true, Season 8 will be our final season. But who knows, maybe the show will continue on past Ryerson. Until then, on behalf of Amara, Samuel, and Jessica, have a great day, everyone.